Never be afraid to like move something off the grid. Being off the grid is great. These right here are just all different 808s that I like. I'm just messing with velocity, so it's not just a machine going through the whole time. Before I add the kick, I like to kind of see where the 808 pattern is landing first. Now we're moving these a little bit over to the right so they have a little bit more pocket. And your ear may not catch it, but those kind of things definitely add a little bit of personality to the drum. So now, what I'll do is I'll grab the loops that I just created here. This is in the bounced files here. And I'm going to grab the music, drop that into Fruity Loops, and then you move that over here. And we're at 106 BPM, so we're going to change this template to 106 BPM. So we have that. So we can hear just the music playing. We can bust that out of just like a regular channel, so I can control the volume of that. Let's put it on channel 27. I like to color code things, so just make it blue so I can see it. So when I'm playing it back, so now that's the music, and now I'm going to grab the same thing for the vocals, drop that on top of that, and then put that into the playlist as well. And that way I can control how loud I want those vocals to be when I'm listening back and auditioning different sounds. So let me turn those down a little bit. This way, while I'm playing it back, I could be like, oh, I don't want to hear the vocal right now. So now when I start adding sounds, I'm like, okay, cool. I can hear without vocal or with vocal. So maybe I'll just start with just the music. And now I'm just trying to think about what kind of kick pattern do I hear while this music's playing. And sometimes I like to just start with a hi-hat just so I can hear the rhythm of it. Maybe make that like a little quicker. I might want that hi-hat to go double time. And then give it a little bit of texture here. So down here, I'm just messing with velocities. Let's see, let's copy and paste that right there. Let's get these a little more textured. I like to give the hi-hat a little bit more of a real type of vibe by changing the velocity so it's not just a machine going through the whole time. I'm going to do that and then copy and paste that pattern because I like the way those hi-hats are moving. And then let me move this over so I have a full loop of 4 bars. Sometimes I like to move the hi-hats back a little bit so they have a little bit more pocket. Now I'm figuring out, do I want a snare? Do I want a clap? You know, I could have a snare, I could do a clap, I could have that. I could do a rim. So boom, starting with a clap maybe. Might be. So I'm just laying down that clap. And now I can go in and just kind of pocket it a little bit so it's right in the pocket. Fruity Loops has a nice quantize feature. So now I want to slide those claps a little bit to the right. Might want to add some other little deet, kind of do things like that. Those are little like secondary high snare sounds. So I'm just playing that on my keyboard, like this, hitting the comma key. And luckily, Fruity Loops lets you kind of control things from your keyboard, so that way you don't actually have to keep going over to the keyboard. So now what I'm going to do is try to pocket these, make sure that the texture is right, the velocity. So when you hear that tick, tick, you can make like a first one louder and second one softer. So I can have like a, maybe. I kind of want the note of it to be more on that note. So I'm going to move this down one step. There we go. Maybe on that last one I can add a dun dun dun, add another one. So right here. And you can start adding some 808s. These right here are literally just all different 808s that I like, that are good possibilities. So there's ones that have a little more saturation, there's ones that don't. Before I add the kick, I like to kind of see where the 808 pattern is landing first, because sometimes you don't even need a kick. The kick might end up being a secondary thing based on how it feels with the rest of the track. So when I'm hearing it back, let me mute this 808 because I haven't really figured out what I want the pattern to be, but. Now that last one, it may not even need that now. That sounds nice at the end, I think. So. And then every time I try to add something, it doesn't sound good there. So now I know that I like just those two snares there. Now I like little hi-hat phrase things. I like these little things that kind of have those things, but I like to kind of make my own. So I can just change the pitch of them. And then I can kind of put them in when I feel like it feels right. So as it goes, I can say, where do I want these to come in? Instead of having an open hat, I like to have these hi-hat phrase pieces. So they're like little fast splash hats that kind of are like machine guns. So I can do dun dun dun. See how that feels. Put that, so. Maybe just do it the second time. So there, now that feels natural to me. I don't keep getting distracted by anything. And then I could see maybe if I need another one, maybe I can have like a lower one. So let me see. So I'm going to turn that one way down. I feel like that one is nice, but it's more as like kind of a background thing. So I could do that. So now let's move this back. Hear that? This last one, I could make this a little lower too. I can kind of like. I keep hearing a boom, 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 boom. At least that rhythm keeps coming to me. So pattern-wise, we know the chords already because they're already in there. We know it starts at an F sharp. So we can put an 808 there, the quickest 808 possible. So that way we're not deciding on how long we want this to go. I kind of put little patterns in here just so I know which 808 I like to start with. This particular one, this has like a lot of tone to it. We may not even need this kind of tone. So I can cycle through my 808s by just kind of going. So this one feels kind of like it's not very invasive. It kind of feels like it's more in the background, more just subby, not so tonal. So when I hear that's the first note that we have. It's an F sharp. So if I'm hearing boom, 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 now I'm going to try to play that pattern. So boom, boom, boom. But we know it goes boom, boom, boom. That's where the next chord goes. So we'll go to that part. We'll program these in. And then boom. So now let's listen back. So now we're moving these all a little bit over to the right so they have a little bit more pocket. Dun, dun, dun. Let's do that. Move these over here. Dum, 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 dum. So let's start with that because we know that's the progression, then it goes down to a B in the end. So I like to just copy and paste it over, put it on the right root notes, and then see if I want to adjust the pattern at all, if I feel like it needs to change or get more complicated. So taking that other note out, I think, kind of helps the flow of it. So now I can see some of my different 808s if they sound any better with now that we have a pattern that we like. So when I hear that and this one, that one feels like it rumbles way more to me. So I like the texture of that. I like to kind of see, do I want to go rumble? Do I not? Now, I think I want to add a kick just to make sure, okay, this is hitting really hard. You have that. I want to turn that down a little bit. It's very loud in this room. I don't like to blast it the whole time because I'll go deaf. So I just like to hear when I'm working on low end very loud. So see how we can hear, oh wait, we need a kick on all these parts. So maybe boom. So maybe just keep that, maybe turn this down a little bit. And we could turn these kicks down because they just want them to be subtle. So let me copy and paste this kick pattern. And see, we can maybe add a kick there as well so that it goes with the 808. And I'm changing the velocities on each kick just so it sounds a little more realistic and not too programmed. Now right there you can maybe add another kick that didn't exist in the 808 pattern. So I like the way that feels so far. Now let me see if I can texture this clap a little bit. Let's see if we have a little rim in there. Maybe that could be a nice sound to add on top. Let's see. I try to find the tone of the rim that fits the song. So we're listening to right around there. If I do that, and I chop it so it doesn't like hold out the whole way, it might just be a cool little texture. And you see how when there's no rim there, it kind of loses a little bit of the texture. So I think the rim adds like a bit of a punch to it without it being like, whoa, what's going on? And I also move the rim a little bit to the right, same way I have the clap. I wonder what if I put a rim here, just as like a little ghost note. So that might enhance that little deep, deep part. So let's hear this. So that could be cool right on that spot, because you want to hear the rim. So I think we don't need it there, we just need it maybe at the end of the bar. So when you hear it, Maybe throwing like weird little, I like to throw little triplet hats in there, and then having that secondary hat, you can move things around, you could pitch things. I always like to start with just something where I know, remind myself, hey, this hat sounds good when I kind of move it different notes. And that hat blends well with this other hat that I had in here, this one. So now I'm going to see how triple hats sound and then kind of piece them together. So let's see. So maybe let's texture that a little differently. So I feel like that rhythm's better. But done. Yeah, that sounds nice. Now I'm going to duplicate that. So when it goes dun, dun, so I maybe want to do right here. So that way you hear this new hi-hat that's kind of blended in with the other hi-hat, and now it makes the pattern feel a little more fresh and not just so straight on the nose. So let me hear that from the top. Then I can see what other weird little perk sounds and these weird little sounds in here. There's like funny little sounds that you can throw in. They don't always need to go in there. I mean, you can really just spend time going through tons of sounds. You know, I have a bunch of little weird little sounds that sound cool. Like that sounds interesting. Could be horrible, could be good. I don't... Like it might be weird. What I try to do is figure out where that actual sound would fit into this as far as the rhythm of it. You can hear that it's moving. Maybe... It's as long as it doesn't get in the way. So while you're listening back, so if you did that and turned it way down, maybe it could be a funny little effect that kind of is just blended in the back. And then I could just turn that way down and kind of see if it even belongs. But I like to experiment. I don't like to just have the same pattern, the same kind of sounds. I like to really just kind of go out on a limb sometimes because that's when some magic happens. So when I do that, now there's another hi-hat pattern that's already a little phrase that's going on. So maybe just that second time it happens. Or maybe just at the end because it's so specific. So let me move it over here. Let me move it up an octave, see what happens if it moves up. So I like it at that speed, but I kind of want the pitch of it to be way lower. In Fruity Loops, you can actually change the pitch. And it's just there as like another little weird sound. So you hear that, it could be very low. And your ear may not catch it, but those kind of things definitely add a little bit of personality to the drums. Because you already have a hi-hat, and now it's just another sound that's in there, and you can kind of blend it in and see what happens at the end. And now, last but not least, I want to see if there should ever be a snare in here, or this rim shot works the whole time. So I have these snare sounds that usually work pretty well. It just depends on if it really needs it. So I can already have them on the 2 and 4, because that's the only place that I would typically put them. And I want to see if they make the track too heavy, or if we're good with just a clap and rim. This really comes down to trying to push the boundaries, trying to be experimental, trying to make sure that your drum pattern is right, it feels good, but it's also just not the generic sounds that you would go to. So let me hear what this feels like. So we can put that here. It's kind of interesting when you hear it layered on top of the clap and rim. And I think that will make it hard hitting. I think that makes it feel even harder and better than before. The other one may not be, you have that 808 that's really pounding so hard. And I think if you don't have a snare that at least kind of feels like it's complementing the 808, then the track feels a little unbalanced. So I'm kind of just dancing through this now and making sure that it feels good. Feels really good. And now I would like to make this part kind of be twice as long and see if there's anything I can do pattern-wise that can spice it up the second time around. I always feel like if something's moving at this pace, if everything is just kind of duplicating and doing the same exact thing, you might get sick of it. Even though there's all these other elements that you can have instrumentally, you kind of want to know, did we push this as far as we could have? So now I'm going to remove all these tracks that aren't doing anything here. I mean, I have little perks and vocal chops and things, but I don't think any of those are needed. We have the 808, we have the kick, the rim, the snare, the clap, the hi-hats, the additional hi-hats, the hi-hat phrases. Those all sound nice and they're playing well. But now, as you can see the length up here of this, I want this to go the full length of the loop. So I'm duplicating out the kicks. I'm going to move these snares over as well. All the things that we said, ooh, these sound good. Let's put these twice as long. And move this over here. So we're just duplicating that, so that way anything we want to change on the second half, we can do without worrying about all the other stuff doing the same pattern. So I'm going to copy and paste this over here. Let's see, that goes over to, we got 4 bars. Let's move that there. Okay. Perfect, okay. Got the rims. Got the hi-hats are going all the way through. Perfect. And then these additional hi-hats that I added, I'm going to copy those over as well. The phrases, let's not forget to move the phrases over. And then this hi-hat. Okay, let's move this over to here. So now we hear it's double the length of the pattern that we just had. Even this weird one, move that to the end as well. And now that we have it duplicated over, we can hear, okay, maybe we need to change a kick pattern. Maybe we can make the 808 be a little more creative the second time. So let's listen through. So right there, that boom, boom, maybe that could go dun, dun, boom, boom. Maybe move that up an octave, see how that feels. That feels good, because the first time around you don't hear that, so that's... nice, I like that. And now maybe this last time we can even add, because remember we have a kick there, maybe we can add that as another octave change on top of that kick that's existing. So maybe we can add dun, 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 maybe add another pattern. Dun, 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 dun. Right there, maybe add to that note on the 808. So. So that gives a little bit of like movement at the end. So it's kind of like a subtle little 808 at the end, just to let you know, like we've hit the end of this 8-bar loop. So let me hear this from the top, make sure there's nothing that's throwing me off. So now it feels nice. At the end, I want to do one little thing to that 808 just to kind of make it feel like it's not off rhythm. Sometimes because of the notes you're hitting, you might want to move something a little weird in the pocket so it goes boom doon, nice little quick move up. So I'm going to do. There we go. That flows nice. So never be afraid to like move something off the grid. Being off the grid is great. It creates a little bit of a pocket. So now that I have all that, now what I want to do is just turn all this into audio and then bounce it all into Pro Tools. So now what I'm gonna do is, here's just the drums. I'm gonna go one instrument at a time. So here's all the instruments, all the lanes that you can see something happening on. Those are the instruments that you're gonna be exporting. So starting with the 808. So I do an export here, and I'm just gonna name it 808. So it's just bouncing all these things out into a waveform. And now we're gonna be back in Pro Tools. So we're gonna take everything that we just exported, and inside of this template that has all these different options and all these possible instruments and all these different things, I'm gonna find where I have my kick, clap, hi-hat, open tracks. So what I'm gonna do is import these files. Now you're almost like building back the drums one by one. Now I would go to the kick, move the kick up to like where I like to have my kick pattern, and I'm at the same time also finding the pocket of how I want this to sit. So the instruments were muted out, but you're gonna hear them now. Control, you're an animal. Look through your camera roll, so I can't get that involved. I ain't trying to do you wrong, but you just ain't moving right. So I'll keep moving along until you see the light. Yeah. So it's almost like we haven't structured the song yet. We don't know when the drums are even gonna come in, but this is a good way to kind of hear, like, when it first comes in, maybe we just have the kick in the 808. We're kind of easing in that we're about to drop into a verse. So this is part of the process. We've just went through, we've created the drum sounds that we like. We know the pattern sounds good over the instruments all together, but now we're trying to figure out, when do we bring these sounds in? The arrangement is so key. And to me, one of the biggest parts of arranging a track and producing a track is knowing when to bring certain instruments in.